Retro.
Hey, this is Catherine Tabor, Senator Padme Amidala from Star Wars The Clone Wars, and you're listening to Jay and Dennis on Podcast Stardust. Stay on the light side.
Welcome to Podcast Stardust. This is the fully armed and operational podcast dedicated to Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Dennis Keithley.
And I'm Jay Krabs.
And after a little bit of a hiatus, we're going to catch up some Star Wars news in this episode. But before we do that, Jay, you want to remind everybody where we can be found on social media?
Absolutely. It's great to be back. We are on Facebook and Instagram conveniently at Podcast Stardust.
All right, the dish is aligned. The signal's boosted to maximum output. The shield is down, and we are now broadcasting to the galaxy. So as we were both just suggesting, this is the first time you and I have both been on the mic together for a few weeks. We've had a lot going on this month. Life changes and vacations and the like. Spring break has been happening, and we tried to cover for that by getting some old episodes of The Mandalorian out there for people to listen to that may not have been around for when the podcast started. And I think I'm going to try and work some more of those in, I should say, over the course of the next couple months in the lead up to The Mandalorian and Grogu, just as a warm up for that movie. But Jay, you good? Everything going all right?
Oh yeah, well it was crazy because I got to become a grandma and be Ahsoka in the same week.
That is one heck of a week, and I suspect there may be only a handful of people in the world that can actually say something like that.
Oh my gosh. So I'm now Grandma Snips, I suppose. And it's a good thing. Very, very blessed. We're very blessed indeed.
Congratulations to you and the family. You sent me
you.
pictures. It was really cool to see all that. We just haven't talked since that happened.
Right.
And then I was out on the West Coast doing a cruise with my family for spring break, and maybe the last time the four of us vacation for the foreseeable future, as we're about to become empty nesters and everyone goes off to different places, and we'll see what happens. But at any rate, it's good to be back. Good to be back on the mics. We've the recording here is such a part of the habit that even while we're off doing fun stuff that's great and things like that, it's still miss it, But
oh yeah, absolutely. I know it was so great to get caught up. I mean, we just spent about an hour just gabbing about life in general before we even hopped on the mic. So
yeah.
Here we are.
Here we are indeed. All right. Well, let's get into it here. So a lot going on. Some of this is interesting that's happened in the past couple of weeks while we've been away. Starting first with some movies discussion, John Boyega has been on the convention circuit for a while now, and he was recently at Megacon Orlando and sent everyone into quite the furor when he talked about a potential return to Star Wars. So he got asked, like he normally does at conventions, about whether he's going to be coming back to Star Wars or whether he'd come back to Star Wars. And I guess at some point when he'd been asked that question, someone in the audience yelled, "Get Dave Filoni on the phone." And he laughed and said, "I actually have, which got everyone all crazy that, oh, he's talked to Dave. So he could in fact be coming back to Star Wars. Here's the thing. That story has made all the rounds on all the different news outlets, but I've now seen some reports from some people that were there. They're saying, well, this is not the whole story. That he had been asked about this a couple times, and he had said a few times during the course of that panel that he hasn't spoken with anyone at Lucasfilm since the leadership change. So I guess it doesn't mean he actually hasn't spoken to Dave Filoni. It's just that it may not be he hasn't spoken to Dave Filoni since he became president of Lucasfilm.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say he's been coy, but he seems to really have been enjoying this conversation on the convention circuit. And I guess, why not? If you're going to keep getting asked that question, why not lean into it? But what's your thought? What's your takeaway on this?
Well, the first thing I thought of was he better be careful because Tim Morrison just went through the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I want to be back in here and let's get them on the phone and all the things. But no, I just think that it's so cool that John Boyega is enjoying all of the circuitry, the fan convention circuits, and getting out there and interacting with fans and that type of thing, and just the fact that he knows how beloved he is.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just brings me joy just to know that he's so into it and would be so into it if he was given the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I feel like everything post Starfighter is like in flux. I'm assuming there's some sort of, whether it's another season of Maul or something, there's probably another animated season in the works for next year or the year after that. Perhaps another Tales of type of series coming out. They may surprise us for May the 4th, although we haven't heard anything at this point, and that's what, just a little more than a month away. And we don't know anything about live action past season 2 of Ahsoka.
Hmm.
So, but not only does Lucasfilm have a leadership change, Josh D'Amaro just took over for Bob Iger at Disney as CEO. So there's been leadership changes up and down the entire business there, corporation, the parent companies and subsidiaries here. So it feels like a whole lot of things could change with different visions now in place for everything. So maybe that does mean we get a change of the heart when it comes to things like the Hunt for Ben Solo, or maybe that is enough to get something like the new Jedi Order across the finish line. Or does Dave want to do everything that Kathleen Kennedy had put in motion, or has he got different ideas that he'd rather prefer? So
Right.
we kind of talked about this a little bit in the past, but assuming John Boyega may be coming back for something, what would you most like to see him appear in? Is it that new Jedi Order movie, the trilogy that Simon Kinberg is supposed to be working on, a new Disney Plus series, something else? What do you think?
Well, as much as I'd love to see him back on the big screen again, I don't know. There's something about a Disney Plus series that just sort of, catches my interest just a little bit, and being able to see him week to week or on a bingeable basis, with some sort of a storyline in that way, I think would be really cool. But what are your thoughts?
I think I would most like to see him on the screen with Oscar Isaac and Daisy Ridley,
Hmm.
and those type of interactions. I know the reception to The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker is fairly split. I think that's fair to say. You and I overall like them. I
Hmm.
mean, if I'm being honest, they're not my two favorite Star Wars movies, but I do enjoy them and I do watch them from time to time these days. But I thought those three had good chemistry, and I'd love to see a really killer script with an opportunity for them to like really take the story forward, and not in a situation like what Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, and Harrison Ford had to do, which was so many years later, where they were so much older, they didn't really get to be the focus of the adventure anymore. You know what I
Right.
mean? They were there for a transitional purpose to pass the torch to a new generation. So, whether you want to like revamp a Rogue Squadron, put Oscar Isaac in that and have Daisy and John somehow involved with that, or you want to do this Kindsberg trilogy, you, you know, I'd love to see those three again, and I don't think you can pull it off with a Disney Plus series for those three. I think it would have to be the big screen in order to get it to work for them.
Mhm. That's fair. And
Yeah,
like you'd said before too, it's better do it while, kind of get it while the getting's good, so to speak, because as you pointed out, if you wait too long, then it's almost too late in some ways.
yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll keep our ears open for more developments on that front. But so Ryan Gosling has been out making the rounds for Project Hail Mary. I think you got a chance to see that, didn't you?
I did. Oh my gosh. Best movie I've seen in a long time. Can I just
Really?
say?
Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see it, but life is busy right now, so I don't know when I'm going to be able to get that. I'm afraid it's going to be out of theaters before I get a chance. But I read the book, love the book, so I'm not surprised that they made a good movie out of it. But since he's doing the promotional circuit, whether it is at the red carpet or whatever, he's getting asked questions about Starfighter. So just some interesting tidbits that have come out. And he did a movie, or an interview rather, with BBC Radio. And of course, he got asked about Starfighter there. And, it was a wide ranging interview. But then when he was asked by the host, whose name I didn't catch, is kind of fun. They have a running gag that Sean Levy asked Ryan Gosling to do this movie because he thought he was Ryan Reynolds
Right.
at the time. So I kind of skipped around the interview, but that came up time and again. Gosling is such a good sport. He took it all in stride.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But they asked him why he agreed to this role. And he flat out said it's because Sean Levy matched his energy. And so, that was attractive to him. So later in the interview, the host asked Gosling if he could ask him, stuff about the movie. And to which Gosling said, well, I'm an open book. And then he said, well, what can you tell us about the third act? And he said, oh, I can't tell you about that, actually.
As he sips his tea, which I think is just perfect.
Right. And then he asked about whether there was actually going to be real puppets in this thing. And so he was very careful about it, but he said, yes, there is. And he went to the creature shop very early on in the process and was looking at all the different puppets. And he said it was so that he could prepare for, how he was going to do like sight lines and look at these creatures. And he found one that was intended to be a background character, but he liked it so much, he asked if they could create a scene where he could interact with this creature. And then as a wrap gift, they made him a model of it. And it is currently at his home. So 2 things. One, really cool that they're going back to the old fashioned model type thing. I mean, all the Star Wars movies do that to some degree, but it sounds like they really leaned in for this. And 2, he was so into it that they gave him a model of this thing to take on.
That's fantastic. So fantastic. And what I really adore about all of this is, as you said, there's so much of the getting back to practical effects thing happening just across the board. Even in Project Hail Mary, that was all, they didn't use any green screens or anything, I found out for that. So for Ryan Gosling to kind of fall in love with this one creature and say, I want to do a scene with this, I just think that's so incredible. And that they listened to him and that he says it's one of the most fun scenes he's ever done. That's saying a lot. I mean, a lot. But that makes me even more excited to see what he meant by that and what that's going to be like.
Yeah. Apparently Neil Scanlon did the alien for Project Hail Mary.
Yes.
He created that puppet.
Yep.
So I thought that was kind of a cool little tie-in. And it is cool. I was glad to see that. One of the things that came up about recently, and it of course had nothing to do with Starfighter, it was Jon Favreau talking about creating the Mandalorian and Grogu. And he made mention that since they had so much more time, they could actually invest more in sets and relied less on things like the volume in order to produce that movie. And he made mention of how, he only got to direct 1 episode of The Mandalorian. And that blew my mind when I sat back and thought about it. And it's like, right, that's right. It was the season premiere of season 2.
Right.
That was the only one that he actually directed. Now he produced the whole thing and wrote many of the scripts, if not a majority of them, but just getting an opportunity to really sink their teeth into a larger production where they weren't trying to get so many episodes done. I mean, it's 2 hours of screen time versus, 4 hours, 6 hours total that they had to get across a season of The Mandalorian. So that was just kind of cool that with this format, they could focus on it a little bit more.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But getting back to Starfighter, on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, he was once again talking about this. He was asked about it. And he mentioned that we've talked about this in a prior episode of our news coverage. The day that Tom Cruise showed up and was on set was the one day he had off during the filming of that movie. And he was kind of joking. He's like, I don't think he did that on purpose, but why did he have to show up on the one day that I wasn't going to be there?
I love that he's fanboying over that. You know what I mean? That he was like, oh man, why did I have to miss him on the one day I was off?
Okay. Here's me reading between the lines on this. And he did. Oh, before I get to that, he said that Levy sent a picture of himself, Cruz, and Flynn Gray, and he goes, they were all standing in the mud.
Gee, thanks. Wish you were here, right?
Right. Do you remember when we were talking about, Tom Cruise showing up on the set and how Sean Levy gave him a camera and had him film some of that scene?
Mm-hmm.
That apparently there was a lightsaber battle involved.
Yes.
And so apparently this lightsaber battle does not involve Ryan
Ryan
Gosling,
Gosling.
but
Mm-hmm.
it's very possible it involves Flynn Gray.
Oh, yes, this is true. Yeah, because the selfie that he sent them
Right.
or him.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
could be other actors for all we know, but that's the picture it was taken. I mean, look, this is pure speculation on my part. I completely acknowledge it here, but like I said, I'm reading between the lines and kind of putting some things together, and it was just curious. I mean, we've talked about this a bit before. Kathleen Kennedy in that exit interview, I think it was with Variety or Vanity Fair, I can't remember which one that she did. She was talking about this great actor they have, and young actor in Flynn Gray, and so there might be more movies, but she didn't mention Ryan Gosling. And here it is, again, putting some pieces together that, Tom Cruise filmed this scene. It involved a lightsaber. Ryan Gosling was not there. And so for all the headline that Gosling's getting for this, I'm beginning to feel like it's more and more about Flynn Gray's character, that's going to be the main character of this movie as opposed to Gosling's character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is what I love about being able to get excited about the movies and other projects coming up is
Mm-hmm.
how much when you're saying, "Oh, I'm reading between the lines," that is so much fun. And
Yep.
I love the predictions, and I really hope you're right because that's so cool. And we talk about passing the baton and, to another generation, and Flynn Gray sounds like he might just be receiving that baton in some ways.
Yeah. I mean, to be clear, I am not one of those that's going to be going looking for the spoilers behind things.
Right.
Uh, I enjoy this type of analysis. We just letting the imagination run wild. And, you
Mhm.
know, there's out there, people say you should speculate because it'll ruin your experience. Like, no, not really. I mean, if you do it responsibly, if you don't get married to your predictions there, then, you can't be disappointed if they don't come true when you go to see the movie. But for me, it is about, I will always take it back to when I was in third grade and Return of the Jedi was about to hit theaters, and the toys came out in advance. And I remember being in that toy aisle and looking at all the new action figures and seeing a Gamorrean. I was like, "Ooh, who's that? What's he going to do?" The
Right.
Scout Troopers, the Royal Guard, and stuff like that, and just being fascinated by those things and thinking about the possibilities and where I might see them in the movie and that type of stuff. It wasn't spoiled for me. I just had these glimpses of things that I could be excited about going into the movie. And that's where I am with this type of stuff. I love seeing the pictures from the set and then guessing what all that could possibly mean. So, yeah,
Oh, me too. That's all part of the fun.
indeed.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's move on to television. And while we were gone, and this feels like ages ago, back on March 16th, a new trailer for Maul Shadowlord came out. So I hope everyone will indulge us while we talk about it because we haven't had an opportunity to do so, even though it may be old news for many of you who probably listen to other Star Wars podcasts where this has been discussed. But it is about a 2-minute long trailer. I don't want to go beat by beat on this thing because we'd be here for an hour, and frankly, we don't have that kind of time right now. But um, before we bring up some specifics, what were your overall thoughts on this one, Jay?
Oh, it's beautiful. I mean, just everything from the colors that are being used in the animation, the way it's being animated, the framing, the lighting, the music. It's just so exciting. And it gave us just enough that it can kind of sate our appetites just a little bit for some of the things that we thought we were going to see and hoped we were going to see and knew we were going to see. And then also open the doors for some more ooh and ah, what's this? What's that kind of thing. So it was just, yeah, pure fun.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful trailer. I am more excited for this series than ever. I mean, we're recording on the 26th of March, and this debuts on April 6th. So,
We're
we're
almost
what
there.
11 days away from
Yeah.
this, and so that's fantastic. What I love about it is just how action driven it appears to be here,
Yes.
and I am getting the feeling that there seem to be enough related scenes that probably most of this trailer is only coming from the first 1 or 2 episodes of the show, so that there
Mhm.
should be plenty for us to see on down the line. I mean, maybe it's more, but, there are some things that I I've been aware of the show. Of course we have. They announced it at Celebration last year, but it just doesn't seem like there's been as much out there to give us a lot of the behind scenes stuff, but beyond the teaser we got and now this trailer here. But uh, there were some things that really surprised me in this. But with that having been said, I don't, like I said, I don't want to go through the whole thing, but I do want to get into some of the things that stood out to us from the trailer. What's we'll take turns here. What's the first thing that stood out to you or impressed you about this trailer?
The movement of Maul's lightsaber, and it just seemed like the blade light seemed like it was its own animal in some ways, and it was just animated differently than I think I've seen it. It was almost reminiscent to me of some of the types of styles that we've seen even in some of the Visions episodes, and it
Mhm.
was very different, very stylized from what we've seen, in past Clone Wars, for example. And I think that that's probably to really maximize the idea of how fast his blade is spinning. So that for me was probably the first thing, and also the way that his face is shown in very, very, briefly, but the way that it's animated and the way that it's colorized in this
Mhm.
is a lot different than what we've seen before. So, yeah. So those are the
Yeah,
first 2 things.
the article that accompanies the trailer on StarWars.com has some quotes from Dave Filoni, and the gist of which is that it's the style that they use for the Clone Wars, more specifically, like season 7, and then the Bad Batch, but it's kind of rougher in a way. They altered it just a bit to
Yeah.
give it this edge that you're talking about here, and I think that definitely shows through with this. Um,
Mhm.
a couple things I'm going to group them into this one category, and it's the Inquisitors. For one, the StarWars.com article gives us the name of the 11th brother, which is Crow, which was interesting. Didn't know that. That's so we finally, that's the one that Ahsoka defeats in Tales of the Jedi. So that was some new information. And we hear Marok talk in this trailer.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he was silent when we first got introduced to him in Ahsoka, from the time we saw him until Ahsoka defeated him and destroyed him in that series.
That's so
So,
true.
yeah, we got a little bit of a Inquisitor development here. And those two are like the representatives of the Empire, as best we can tell. I mean, beyond the stormtroopers and but they're there on Janix to hunt down Maul. And there's those great scenes on the train where Marok is fighting Devon, who is the Twi'lek Padawan, and then she teams up with Maul to take him on there. And then there's some other scenes where those two are standing together while they fight off Maul and some of his groupies, for lack of a better term. But anyway, um, so I was really impressed with the Inquisitors from the trailer.
Oh, yeah, that's a great pull, definitely. And I really like the fact that they are diving into some of these more complex relationships with
Hmm.
different characters and these unlikely alliances. I mean, there's at one point where it's kind of the enemy of my enemy is my friend sort of idea, that we've seen in the past in some instances, but this is really bringing that front and center. So it's, we talked about so much of the shades of gray rather than clear good versus evil in this show, and I think that that's what we're kind of seeing here too.
Yeah. So it's another thing that stood out to you.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, like I said, Maul's lightsaber was a big one. I think too the Maul just being a fugitive, where he says, the Empire tried to kill me. So now
Mhm.
he's being positioned very differently. And I just love the idea of where that story is going to take us.
Yeah. Yeah. Along those lines, I was going to pick up with that same quote that you started to read. The Empire tried to kill me. Their betrayal demands consequence. And Sam Witwer just like chews it up delivering these
Oh,
lines.
yeah.
And the consequence requires a weapon. And when that word comes out, a weapon, you get an image of Devin on the screen. And then you kind of see some bunch of stuff going on. And then he says, together we can destroy the Empire. So he really has it in for the Empire. But you couple that with there's a scene between Devin and her Jedi master, whose name is Iko Diodaki. Just say that 3 times fast.
Right.
Master Iko Diodaki. And Devin saying he wants to fight as allies, and his response is the Empire will maybe our common enemy, but Maul will never be our ally. But as I was saying a moment ago, later in the trailer, we see Maul and Devin working side by side to take on the Inquisitors in this one. I bring this up because it really stands out to me, this game that Maul is always playing with is trying to get an apprentice and develop his own on his own as a Sith Lord, trying to reach that type of ascendancy. With the Clone Wars, it was Savage Opress until Savage died. And then later in Rebels, he tries to take Ezra on as apprentice. He tries to corrupt him from Kanan. And so, we now know that Ezra was not attempt 2, it was at least attempt 3. And, he basically is trying to bend Devin into a weapon, is what this trailer is suggesting here. And I mean, I know a lot of people have kind of thought that she might be Darth Talon from the old Legends comics. I don't see that, honestly. But
yeah, I'm not leaning towards that either.
But I do think that maybe that character was an inspiration for the direction of the story. And I think that could be such a cool story to tell, because I'm guessing Master Iko Diodaki, again, me speculating, isn't going to make it much longer than the first or second episode of this show. And Devin is going to find herself on the run with Maul, or part of this syndicate that he's building.
No, I think you're totally right in that. And I think that makes total sense because of everything that you just said too about the whole building on the apprentice thing. And obviously Maul is in a different, era, if you will, and different age of trying to create this syndicate. And so he needs someone that follows his lead, and that might indeed be her.
Anything else that stood out to you?
Oh, the music. I mean, oh my gosh, like I said, it's, and you even have it here in our notes that it's very reminiscent of Duel of the Fates and very much sounds like it, but it's so gritty. And I love how it actually is more tailored to Maul's persona in that way. And it gave me chills. I'm not going to lie. So good.
Yeah. I also liked the coalition that Maul seems to have here, which is the Mauldalorians, and then like Night Brothers that are there kind of as part of his team on Janix. I was not expecting to see Night Brothers in this thing, but there's a couple of them that have that red and black, markings on their face. One's got some repeating cannon that he's firing at gunships there. And, you were talking about the animation style difference here. The way that those guys were animated, I was like, this is a whole new level for these guys. It's really super impressive. They look manic in their performance in this trailer.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah. Oh, if you don't have anything else, I wanted to bring up Lawson, who is the investigator here, and we know he's got the droid companion, Two Boots. One of the security droids of Wars, Two Boots. But
love it.
I thought, I like the voice performance of the actor, who I know is someone who I guess has been nominated for or won Emmys. I couldn't remember what his name was, but you kind of get a gist of what this is about, which is he knows that as long as there is the syndicate leader, he's not even sure who it was. The whole thing starts off with him saying that our target is a syndicate leader. He is associated with several criminal organizations and proficient with a laser sword. And he's got a great accent. But then later he seems to be talking to someone else that's on the Janix police force. And there's this notion that the Empire is casting a shadow over their city and their entire world. And the solution is doing something about Maul. And, even one of the Inquisitors comes up from behind Lawson and puts his hands on his shoulders, like, obviously exerting some type of influence. It kind of reminded me of when Krennic did that whole finger on Dedra Miro's head thing.
Oh,
from, season 2 of Andor. But so I think that just kind of gave us an idea that, Lawson's not in this just to take out a syndicate leader. He's doing it because he, again, speculation apart, but this is to get the Empire off their back. They got to do something about Maul. So that was my take on that.
Oh, that's a good one. And Maul is definitely, obviously, not going to back down very easily. And one other thing that definitely stood out to me was how Maul took down that ATST with his lightsaber.
Yeah.
And
So
that
good.
was just, oh my gosh, fierce and just sheer power, and just shows how completely unstoppable he is. That was just so striking visually.
And I like the way you said that, the visual being visually striking, because I would follow that up with how cinematic this entire thing was. It's
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars, so the response to that is no duh. But there was some angles and some shots in here, again, to praise the animation, that were just unlike things that we've seen in Rebels and the Clone Wars and Bad Batch and stuff.
Right,
So
right.
it seems like they found a new level with that. So at any rate, I suspect we could go on about this for quite a while, but
Oh, yeah.
it's coming out on April 6th. We get 2 episodes per week with the finale on May the 4th, which seems very, very appropriate. So
Yes,
cannot
it
wait for that.
does.
We'll be recording our first review in just 2 weeks. Wow,
Oh,
that's coming
so
right up.
excited. So
Yeah,
excited for it. And I'm
yeah,
sure we'll get some other things for May the 4th too. They always seem to surprise us about a week out, it seems, with
yeah.
things. Last couple of years anyways, that's what they've been doing. So
Here's the thing, though. It's like these shows come out, and at least this time, it's like the show comes out on Monday, and so I have like till Thursday to digest it and get ready for it to talk about it on the
right.
podcast. But the problem with that is that you and I don't talk about the shows before we record, so that we don't do the podcast before the podcast. And at most, be like,
Exactly.
"Did you see that? Yeah, it was so good," or something like that.
Right,
But
right.
so it'll be hard not to discuss it for a few days until we can to
It
record.
will.
But yeah,
I'm sure we'll be trading texts. Oh my gosh, that was amazing, or whatever, because that's what we
exactly.
do.
All right. Well, a couple quick stories to wrap things up with. First off, as we've been talking about in the past, Galaxy's Edge over in Disneyland has been getting a little bit of a makeover as they convert the Oga's Cantina, Millennium Falcon, Doc Ondar's area into a original trilogy timeline area. They've given us a little bit of an update on Oga's Cantina, and that is that all of the references to the Galactic Star Cruiser have been removed, which I think has
Hmm.
less to do with the timeline change and more to do with the fact that the Star Cruiser is no longer with us.
Right.
Um, and then they did make mention that Rex, the droid DJ, is no longer making any references to the Resistance, which would make sense since he's no longer in that part of the land.
Right, right. So yeah, the whole timeline thing makes sense for sure. But I just think it's interesting how they're basically just wiping the Galactic Star Cruiser out of existence completely. If it's
Yeah,
not in the
it's
archives, it does not exist, kind of
yeah, it's
thing.
that's kind of too bad. I mean,
It
it
is,
still
yeah.
shows up in a bunch of books and comics. So I mean, the
Right.
whole Leia and Han Solo wedding book. big chunks, big section of that takes place on that ship. So you could
Yes,
still
so
have the
true.
ship, even if people can't stay
Mhm.
there. And then the last thing in this week's news is just a fun moment from the Oscars. Sigourney Weaver and Pedro Pascal were presenting an award, and sitting in the audience was Grogu, and Kate Hudson was sitting next to him, flirting with him, which led to a moment of Sigourney saying to her, "Get away from him, you."
Oh,
A nice.
no.
Did you see this little aliens callback?
No, I did not even no, I didn't even know that the Oscars were on. Isn't that horrible?
Yeah, well, it was while I was away, so I didn't see them, which is fine. But the are you you've seen Aliens or
Oh,
no?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you remember the whole when she's in the loader thing fighting the
Mhm.
queen, and you get away from her, you whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
she reprised that
Our
for the
listeners
Oscars.
can
So
fill in the blank there for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. But you just if you do a quick search for Sigourney Weaver, Pedro Pascal at the Oscars, you can find that clip, no problem. And Pedro praises her as like nice script recall. So it was fun. It was a good moment. And then the only thing is that Conan O'Brien was a host, and by all reports he did fine, but he kind of had I don't know, a moment he wouldn't let go where he pointed out that Grogu can't clap, and he kept trying to get Grogu to clap. And it's like, okay, you wore that one out, but oh
Hmm.
well, it is what it is. All right. So, yeah, that's it. That's it for this week's news. Thank you all for joining us for this episode of Podcast Stardust. We hope you enjoyed our take on what we had to say about the Maul trailer and what's going on with John Boyega and Ryan Gosling. It was fun, Jay. It was good to get back on the mic. It's been too long. So,
sure.
But if you did enjoy this, we'd invite you to follow the podcast or subscribe on your podcast of choice. We love your ratings and reviews while you're doing that. And then if you want to find more of the back catalog beyond the 200 or so episodes that you're likely to have on your podcatcher, the best place to do that is over at retrozap.com. And Jay, you want to go ahead and remind everybody what our social media contacts are and where else we can be found online?
Sure. It's super easy to find us. We are on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast Stardust. And you can always check out all of our Pinterest boards. We've got tons of them over there. And if you're looking for even more places to connect with us, download the show, share it with your friends. You can do that on YouTube and YouTube Music. And if you'd like to drop us a line, you can do so at podcaststardust@gmail.com. And, the weather's starting to get a little warmer in some areas of the galaxy. So if you are in need of a closet refresh, there are some wonderful wardrobe choices over on TeePublic that have 7 different show logo designs of Podcast Stardust available for you. On t-shirts and sweatshirts, also some athletic wear and ball caps and the like. And the link to that is going to be in our show notes.
All right. What is the latest in cosplay?
Well, as I hinted just a little bit ago at the very beginning, I was recently at Fan Expo Cleveland, where I got to have a very short outing as Ahsoka, but it was wonderful. I got to see a lot of my cosplay friends, and I got to go to the Hayden Christensen panel, which was a lot of fun. I even got to hear him talk about his method for folding laundry, which, I never thought I would enjoy hearing someone talk about folding laundry so much, but there I was. So if you want to see all of my adventures and my recap, as well as some other fun things, you can head over to my Instagram, which is at j.snipscosplay.
All right. So I can finally speak with confidence about what's coming up on the show. Thank you all for listening to all those episodes of the Mandalorian coverage that we did in the past. And I know it's kind of funny when I dropped this last episode about The Force Awakens, where I was talking about how I don't know what's in the future. And, it was after all those Mandalorian episodes. I even suggested we might do the Mandalorian there. But anyway, that said, Monday, we're getting back into our Clone Wars rewatch with a discussion of episode 15 from season 3, Overlord. This is the beginning of the Mortis trilogy arc. So we haven't recorded this yet, but I'm really looking forward to talking to Jay about it. And make sure you join us for that. And then on Wednesday, it is the return of our very popular Darth Bane book club. So we'll be getting into chapters 7 through 9 of Darth Bane, Path of Destruction. And looking forward to hear what you all have to say about that after you hear the show. So thanks for listening to episode 1013 of Podcast Stars, everyone. Have a great weekend. And until next time, may the Force be with you.